We are here with Sparky. It is training session number 10. I haven't videoed all of the training sessions because it's just been a lot of riding and more riding. So now that we're at day 10 and I feel like he is more responsive to my leg and to my aids, and he now has a set of shoes on. This will be my second ride with a set of shoes on. That is making a set of front shoes on. That is making a difference as well. He is starting to travel more confidently. When we did start this session off, he still was travelling a little bit flat-footed like a horse without shoes, but he's starting to lift and engage now. So I've put him back on the long reins today to try and develop the canter more on the long reins in the Kula Lunge before I try it again under saddle. Now, I'm taking this video myself with my phone. I don't have a GoPro, so he is not going as well as he was when I had a long rein in each hand. But you can see he is cantering more freely than he was when his first lot of canter, both on the long reins and under saddle. He was very proppy in the canter because he wasn't straight. He was very proppy in the trot as well because he wasn't straight. So Sparky is an interesting horse. I believe when he was broken in, which was less than a year ago, his breaker didn't use a lot of leg on him. So he's been really resistant to the leg, and I know the breaker didn't use contact. So he's been really resistant to the contact in terms of he'll either really lean into the contact or will duck behind the vertical, but he won't take the contact. So then coming back to the straightness issue, how he would like to travel is leading with the inside shoulder in both directions. So because he'd lead with the inside shoulder in both directions, it wouldn't allow the rib cage to move out of the way, the inside hind leg to step through, or both hind legs to step through, to get that freedom of movement and that ground cover, which you can now see because he is straighter and following that line that he's travelling on. So from when I started, I did have the side reins looser. I've made a couple of side rein adjustments, and I've just taken some brief videos on the long reins, and then I've got Tess, his owner, to do some video under saddle. So while, yes, he's not perfectly on the bit or round, he is much more engaged. He is stepping under with his hind legs now and is not hopping into the trot anymore or into the canter. So he's starting to travel forward and cover ground now. You see that hesitation when he still wants to use that underneck and not lift the thoracic sling, but he is going forward more consistently and, more importantly for him, more freely. I only picked up the whip once during this session because I couldn't get him to canter, which is when you'll hear me in the background saying I'm going to pick up the whip. And you can see he's starting to relax into the contact more. So I had a longer session on the long reins today than I did under saddle, and I'm going to repeat this tomorrow on the long reins to try and get him more balanced in the canter from the ground before I attempt to canter under saddle again. So I want to train correct, not train incorrect. So if he's not traveling correctly on the long reins, me getting on his back now and expecting him to canter correctly, separate the hind legs, lift up the lumbar and the thoracic sling, and travel straight in the canter is not going to happen. Now, the reason I did take a step back from long reining him is I couldn't get him off that inside shoulder in either direction. He is less balanced to the left, wants to lead more with the left shoulder to the left, but he still wants to lead with the inside shoulder to the right as well, which is, excuse me, that's my dogs barking in the background. And you can see now that Sparky is under saddle, he is travelling much more freely under saddle. This again is because I've taught him to laterally bend, in which case he can now step under more freely with his hind legs and engage. Part of the process of teaching him this is going back to incorporating the Kula Lunge to help improve the connection again. So yes, he is still unsteady in the contact. Rome wasn't built in a day. This is only session number 9. But he is starting to actually come into a light contact. I'm finding him a much more comfortable horse to ride now. And if you have a look at our first ridden video, you'll see that he's pretty much got twice the stride length that he did in our first video. I'm not actually going to canter him under saddle today because I don't feel that we've established a correct enough canter on the long range yet. So I don't want to practice something that's not correct, that's just ingraining into him to do the wrong thing. So I'd rather establish a better connection, better lateral flexion and bend, and have him working in a more consistent round frame before we go back to the canter. He actually does have a fairly soft mouth. I have spent some time asking him to soften off each rein from the ground before doing it under saddle, and he is starting to take the contact better today, and he's no longer leading with the inside shoulder. You will see that he does fall on the inside shoulder from time to time because he's losing balance, so he's not staying in my outside rein. But again, that's strength and consistent training. So I've started trying to incorporate some changes of rein across the round yard in trot, but he's not quite ready to make the turns completely in trot yet. So rather than unbalancing him and forcing him to stay in trot, I allow him to go back to walk, make the turn, and then make a transition back to trot. Transitions are also an important part of his training. So I would prefer him to be doing a balanced turn in walk than an unbalanced turn in trot. And you'll see that he's actually quite light in my hands a lot of the time now. When he is lifting his pole up, he is falling on the inside shoulder, becoming unbalanced, dropping the thoracic sling. These are all strength things that are happening now. I'm asking him to travel in a whole new way than what he's used to for the last 10 years of his life, and to carry me as well. So this is all just part of the training process of riding him correctly and teaching him to carry a rider in a balanced, comfortable frame. I hope you found this helpful. Please subscribe to our channel, Kula Lunge, for more training tips.